Okay, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's been a while since I sat in this seat and given you a speech in my tainted English. But when I was sitting at my desk at home this afternoon thinking about what I'd talk about, the same kind of ideas go through your head. How long should it be? How short it should be? Should you mention, certain idioms? Should you talk about the Bible? Should you mention loads of numbers just to really piss off everybody? But one of the things that I was certain about when I sat down to prepare the speech was that I wasn't going to talk about Ireland, because I think every speech that I've done here so far has been about Ireland or somehow related to the Irish in Brussels or some problem that we're experiencing at the moment on our small green isle. But having said that, and having started with the idea that I would not talk about Ireland, I'm going to talk about Ireland because I want to. But not only because I want to, because something very important happened to me recently, and it highlighted a very important lack in rights that I enjoy here in Brussels as an Irish citizen. I did an interview last week for a job here in Brussels. And like many interviews, towards the end of it, you're given an opportunity to ask questions to the interviewers. For example, what's the salary? Tell me more about the job itself. But I had one very straightforward, practical question that I wanted to ask, and that was, can I have 2 days holidays in May, please? That was all I wanted to know. And those 2 days were extraordinarily important for me. If they said no, which they did initially, I would have turned down the job offer immediately. It was that important. I had to take those 2 days off. Now, ultimately, we agreed on it, and I said, yeah, no problem. I'll start work for you if you give me the guarantee that I can take those 2 days off. Now, why? Why did I want to take 2 days holidays in May? Well, I'm not sure if some of you know, but there is a referendum taking place in Ireland on the 22nd of May. In fact, there are 2 referendums being held on exactly the same day. The first of which, and the referendum of lesser importance, is the reduction of age limits in candidates running for the presidential election. At the moment, the age limit is 35 years of age, and the government wants to reduce that to 18. I think it's a relatively straightforward question. I don't think there's a huge amount of problems surrounding it, and personally, I think I'll vote yes, because, why not? Why can't I run for president? Why can't any of us here in the room run for president if you are eligible to vote? But the second referendum that's taking place is on a much more sensitive issue. It's on marriage equality, or gay marriage. And in actual fact, this is the first referendum being held on gay marriage in the world. We're the first country to openly hold a vote, by popular vote, on gay marriage. Every other country that has introduced gay marriage thus far has introduced it through legislative means, which I actually agree with because it kind of reduces the amount of stress and hoo-ha associated with referendums. Now, one of the problems with this referendum and with holding a referendum is that both sides need to be represented equally. Both sides need to have the same amount of airtime. Both sides need to receive the same amount of public money. This, in my opinion, blows the no side out of proportion, blows those people who are 100% against gay marriage out of proportion. It gives them too much airtime. But I'm not going to talk to you about marriage equality today. I'm sure you can dedicate an entire speech for half an hour on that topic. But what I want to talk to you specifically is about me going home to vote in this referendum. I definitely could not sit here in Brussels and drink a beer and go to Delirium and all those other bars in Brussels knowing that I hadn't gone home to vote for something that's extraordinarily important for people in my country. But, as it stands at the moment, Irish people cannot vote from Brussels. We don't have a postal vote system like some countries do. They require everybody to be present in the country on the day that the vote is held. Now, this causes an enormous amount of stress for a lot of people. It's costly, and it takes up time. Me here in Brussels, it's fine. I can take a 1-hour Ryanair flight. People in America or Australia, this is simply out of the question. Now, I can understand why the Irish government may have restricted our right to vote back in the day. It might have been a way to consolidate their power. It might have been a way of reducing the influence of the 70 million strong diaspora. It might have been a way of stopping that woman in Wisconsin who claims to have a great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather twice removed who was Irish, to give her the right to vote in a national election. But ultimately, I think the rationality for it is that if you're not living in the country anymore, you're not affected by the policies. You're not affected by the decisions that are made by the government, and you shouldn't, therefore, have a right to vote on that. Now, I don't think that that rationality holds through across the board. The right to vote in an election is fundamental. It's extraordinarily important in a democracy. And for me here in Brussels specifically, I think I should be able to vote, and I think the Irish community should be able to vote here in Brussels. Why? Because the vast majority of us are working on behalf of the country that we know best. I also think that the Irish community in London, for example, should be extended to vote, or not specifically London, but the United Kingdom, because we're so close. So I do think that something should be changed about this. So I did a little bit of research on disenfranchisement rules just to see, are we the only crazy country in the European Union not to extend the vote for people living abroad? And the answer is no. There are in actual fact 6 countries in the European Union which deprive their nationals of the right to vote abroad. Cyprus, Denmark, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Germany and Malta. Those 6 countries, in different ways, reduce the power that their citizens have to vote in an election. I started thinking a little bit more about this and wondered, does this disenfranchisement rule violate European Union law? I mean, I'm Irish, we all have different nationalities here, but most of us are at least European citizens. Otherwise, you might have an awful lot of stress of trying to stay here and finding a job. But we're a European citizen. So should we not be allowed to vote in an election living in a different country? Now, we have the freedom to move in a different country. I have the freedom to move and work here in Belgium. I can go to Slovakia. I can go to Slovenia if I want. But not all of those rights that are attached to my citizenship follow with me. So let's just have a look for a second. Does this actually violate EU law? At first sight, you might say no. Citizenship rights are attached specifically to national competences. This is a member state area. It's not an area that the European Union can legislate on. It's nothing like the CAP or the Common Fisheries Policy or something that the European Union can legislate on. But recent decisions, or recent judgments I should say, by the Court of Justice of the European Union has stated in a very sly kind of way that member states need to be able to give their citizens the right to vote in different areas, because what you're doing is not adopting measures in member states which allow their citizens to enjoy the full rights that are accorded to them under EU treaties. So I do think that in the years to come, there may be a couple of issues regarding this. And I do think that if you extend the right to European citizens to move and to work in every single country in the European Union, you should also be allowed to vote in those countries at home, at least by postal vote. And one of the campaigns that I'm actively involved in is trying to get the vote extended to Irish people living abroad. And the name of this is We're Coming Home. It was a campaign that was set up by a friend of mine in university, and we have been actively lobbying the Irish government to try and bring in legislation to this effect. And one of the events that we're organising specifically for this referendum is called Get the Boat to Vote. It's a way of gathering the Irish communities around Europe to get the same boat home on the 22nd of May to vote in the referendum. Now, I can imagine that that will be one gigantic party vote, but a political party vote at that, I think we should all acknowledge. So at the moment, I'm trying to gather steam here, gather strength in Brussels to get people on board, if you excuse the pun, with this plan. Now, I hope that we'll be able to get enough money, I hope we'll be able to get enough people involved in this to encourage the Irish government to bring in this legislation. It may be that I'll have to take a plane instead of a boat from Brussels on the 22nd of May. I'm not sure yet. It may be a party plane. It may be a party boat. I'm not sure. But one way or another, I'm going to try my best to get everybody home for that vote. Now, just to say, whilst I would be in favour of extending the postal vote to Irish people living in Brussels, and whilst I would like to be able to send my vote by post from Brussels, the Irish government, I don't know whether they intended to do this, but they put this referendum on the day before the Eurovision. Now, the Eurovision is a fabulous event. I think we can all agree on that. And the results of this referendum will be read out on the day of the Eurovision. That's a fantastic event for Ireland. And I think that even if I had the postal vote here in Brussels, I'd still be going home to get this party vote, to vote in a referendum that I'm pretty sure will pass, hopefully it will pass, and to enjoy the Eurovision, which I doubt will win, but at least it'll be good crack. Thank you very much.